Welcome to the Driven Dental Podcast, where all things dental drive our curiosity to have meaningful conversations about self-development, business scalability, and prioritizing people over profits. This podcast will leave you ready to drive your practice to new levels of success. I am Matt Robinson, COO and co-founder of Operation Dental, writer of the Driven Dental Practice, and your host. Dentistry is about its people. Let's hear from them. Welcome to the Driven Dental Podcast. I'm here today with Frankie from our Dr. Phillips office. He has been with us since 2020?
2021.
2021, okay. Mm-hmm. So 3 years, going on 27. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited to have him here today because he has been a great example of growing with us quickly and having the right mindset of growth. And it's been really a pleasure to work with him so far. And I'm excited to speak with him, to see where his mindset is, and hopefully we learn quite a bit about dental office management.
Let's do it.
And the team. Okay. So if you don't mind, because I actually don't know this, if you could share your background before dentistry.
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. I was actually in real estate, completely different from dentistry. So I was in real estate for about 10, 11 years, going on 11 years. I started at the very bottom. I started with an attorney as his receptionist, who was a title firm attorney. And I remember being there. My biggest goal after being there for a little bit was to be a real estate. I forgot the title now, but it's a real estate closer, I think is what it was. Okay. I saw the one of the girls there who did it. She was amazing. And I was like, man, that's what I want. I want that really bad.
The mobile closers? Or
yeah, but he did it at the office. Okay. His paralegals did it there.
Gotcha.
And I was like, I want that. And so I kind of like learned the game, stayed there for a little bit. And that was my first job ever getting fired at. And it smacked me so good to have that, because that was like perfect record. And then I was doing tax work as not being an accountant, and surprised I made a mistake. I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
It was a lot of Google and YouTube led me wrong because I made a big mistake. When I found out, I was like, I got to tell the attorney, I messed up. He's probably going to appreciate the honesty. He definitely didn't appreciate the honesty. I told him, he was like, hey, just, go home for the day and I'll call you tomorrow and let you know. Went home, he called me at the end of the day and he said, hey, we ran fine without you. So I don't need you back. And if you need a recommendation letter, I can give you something for sales because you have a great personality. Anything admin, I would absolutely not recommend you. And that's how the phone call ended.
Wow.
I was like, man, this guy's great. I remember that for a while, it sat with me. So I told him that, I think I'm going to try sales. I paused there, went to do car salesman, hated it, went back into real estate, did loan processing. I was like, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to go on the loan side of it, learn there, because the goal was still to be a real estate closer. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn the loan side of it, and then did that for about a year and a half, kind of grew a little bit in there. And then I was looking for that to be fulfilled. And so then I was like, this is not doing it for me anymore. I was like, now with the experience I have, I think I can get the title, the job. Went for it, found another law firm for that title. And I worked there for about 2 weeks, and they were like a very, very, it was like this lady's house. And my supervisor, he would give me, every day I had to go to him, and he would give me what I had to do for the day. And I'd be done by like 9:30. Mm-hmm. And then when I'd ask him like, hey, what else? He was like, man, you're done. So you can get on your phone, but you can't go home, but you can stay till 5 on your phone. I'm like, what is this? So I was like, this is unproductive. So I left already I found a new position with the official title. It was real estate, residential home closer and office manager. I was like, got it. Mm-hmm. I was in there. I was so excited. Got new clothes, got like all this office stuff. I told him this is going to be the best day ever. And I went in, the first day sucked. So I was like, you know what? It's probably first day, nothing big. It sucked every day after that for sure. I would have to get there 15 minutes beforehand. And it's actually maybe about 10 minutes from where right now. I have to get there 15 minutes beforehand so I can sit in the car and just breathe. Yeah. And whenever I-4 was I-4 and I got there right on time, that day was the worst day ever. And I remember I had one day where I called Nesh venting. I was like, hey, I hate this place. I can't do it anymore. And she was like, I think we're hiring for like a receptionist. And I remember talking to her like, like, do you know what I do right now? Excuse you? Like, you want me to start all the way at the bottom? I was like, absolutely not. I would never do such a thing. I was like, no. We laugh at this now all the time. And then I was like, I would never. I was like, no, yeah, I'm calling an event. I don't need solutions right now. It's not a thing. About 2 weeks later, I had probably the worst day of my life at that job, like the worst day. I called her and I was like, hey, what's the job again? I don't care what it is. I can start tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And she was like, yeah, it's a receptionist. And then I had no idea. I remember I left and I was like, I went to go do the interview. And I was like, I'm switching careers. I remember Nesh would tell me about dentistry, and I would like gross. She's like, yeah, we had to stop the tongue and then just get real detailed. I'm like, I'm not interested. No, thank you. I'm like, and I'm about to go interview for a dental office.
So Nesh is his wife.
Yes, this is my wife.
And how long has she been in dentistry?
She's been
forever, right?
Like 11, 12 years. I don't know. I get this year.
That's all she really had worked
straight out of high school. Okay. She did that, and yeah, she's amazing. She's the best dental assistant I know. And it was at her office. The office was special because they had two different, how it was. It was two different offices in one, in essence. So I went and I interviewed, and thought it went great. I interviewed with our regional manager, Vanessa, and she made me an offer. And to this day, I'm one of her first I'll think about it, because Vanessa usually gets them. And I was like, I'll get back to you. I knew I was going to take it, but I was nervous. I'm like, I'm just going to go change. I'm doing real estate. This is all I know to dentistry. But the team, Dr. Lyman, mm-hmm. He was cool. He was very, very nice. He was very open. I'm like, this doctor seems really nice. Vanessa seemed straightforward, honest. I appreciated it. So on the way home, I remember I called my mom, and she was like, my mom's very, she's very honest. So mm-hmm. she was like, are you happy where you're at now? I was like, no, I hate it. So she was like, did you like where you were interviewing? I was like, yeah. She was like, so I'm confused. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, you don't like where you're at. You liked where you were possibly going to be at. Make it make sense. So I was like, got it, understood. I'll call her back. Called Vanessa back, and I was like, I'll take it. And then that's when I started here with you guys. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It was a wild ride, but I definitely think everything I did there, like everything I went through, being let go, switching jobs, like all of that, being now where I'm at, I would do that all over again, because it definitely prepped me for where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. 100%. How
so?
I think a lot of it was, I was younger, but at that age, there was definitely an ego thing. And so I feel like I went through all my ego phase at a place which was that I didn't care for, in essence. This is a company I care for, I'm involved. And it was, I think, because I went through that ego phase, it was a lot easier to have my ego, like, starting here. I started from the very bottom at mm-hmm. 20, how old am I now? Like 28 years old. I had 2 kids, I had a house, I had a wife, and I'm starting, being very candid, I was, making now less than my wife, and I was this big man provider, and now I'm just starting at the very, very bottom.
Sure.
It ripped that ego out. Mm-hmm. And I needed that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, there was no, I could have been the problem at these previous jobs. I'm thinking it's always them, and it very well could have been me with, mm-hmm. With that mentality of, which is why we laugh at it now, where I was like, do you know where I'm at now? She always laughs at me like, you sound like such an idiot. I'm like, absolutely. Like I think I remember that conversation. If I was to hear myself now, was to hear myself then, I'd be like, this guy's, he's an idiot.
Yeah.
So I needed that to be able to come into a company, but like I was vulnerable. There was no ego. I was at the,
Sure.
I was at one of my lowest points.
Yeah.
Now all I had to do was work and learn. That's all I had left.
Were you excited about dentistry or the potential of something new?
I was. And, I remember Vanessa saying, there's a lot of growth here. And the reality is most people you interview with, they tell you there's a lot of growth here. Mm-hmm. So that part, I was numb to it. So she was like, a lot of growth here. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Everyone says that. But, again, she felt honest. So I'm like, maybe there is. And I remember Nesh saying, like, at that time, my wife was, I only started about 3 months after her, which is crazy. It's weird.
Wow.
She started August, I started October. And her transition was very interesting too. So I did see, she was actually in the middle of a growth moment right there. Mm-hmm. So it was 3 months. And I knew she worked for it. So I was like, maybe there is a thing here. And it was all new. But again, being that all I had to do at that point was to learn. I had nothing else but to go there and learn. And I think that definitely helped me, be where I'm at right now, 100%.
Were you able to use the real estate and what happened there as fuel in dentistry to progress faster?
Absolutely. I one of my, not proud, but it was a good moment because there was 2 jobs. The attorney was one of them. For years, it bothered me that I got let go because again, I had a clean record. I was never let go. And I remember I worked my butt off here, and I remember their business development manager. She reached out to me and said, "Hey, Frankie, what's up?" I was like, "This is weird. Hey, how are you?" Long story short, she was like, "We're looking for." It was like a real estate closer, but an assistant to the ones there. And I was like, "Hey, I'm not interested." And she was like, "We made a mistake letting you go. The attorney finally saw it." And that's all I needed. Like when I heard it, I was like, "No, I'm still not interested, but I appreciate you, but no." But I told Nash, I'm like, I all of that was great, but I wouldn't go back there. And so it was nice to know they felt they made a mistake. I mean, I generally didn't. At that point, I didn't care. It was nice to hear, but I didn't care at that point. Like,
you moved on.
I moved on. But it was nice to see them saying like, "We need you now." I was like, "No, I'm doing my own thing. I'm this whole I'm in dentistry now."
So now when you started at Conway, I remember you being incredibly engaged to the point where you were talking to Vanessa, I assume daily.
Yes, she was sick of me.
Yeah. Did you work like that in real estate as well? Was that always in you?
Since that's just since I was a kid. I remember I used to bother my mom. I was always the person that I just wanted to know why. Like if you told me why, I was cool with it. Like I remember I'd ask my mom, "Hey mom, can I go here?" She'd be like, "No." I'm like, "Why?" "Because I said so." That would drive me nuts. I just need to know, because it's 8 p.m. and it's changed out there and it's nighttime and you can get killed. I'd be like, "Oh, understood," walk away. And that's kind of how I learned, even at Conway. I would ask, the manager there saying, "Hey, but why do you have to do that?" And she was great in that sense. She would tell me because this, and this. I was like, "Okay, good." And I would write it down. And then at that point, that's just how I learned everything. Even at real estate, everything was why. I knew why. So when that happened again, I already knew the why and kind of what we have to do.
How long into working at Conway did pretty much every conversation at dinner turn to dentistry?
I would say honestly, Matt, probably like since week 1.
Yeah.
It was just because at first it started with, how do you like it? How's it going? How's this? And Nesh just interrogating me, like, how's that? Nesh, it was different. So it probably since week 1, honestly. And it's never stopped.
Yeah, no, we're the same.
Yeah. We try. We're like, "Hey, we're going to go date night. No dentistry talk."
Yeah.
Last about 2 minutes.
It's just we're the same way. It's so funny.
But it's what we do.
Yeah.
We ended up talking about it. I said, it's just what we do, and it's not that we do it. It's work. It's what we love. Like it's and you guys, I told you that's why no matter what, we always go back to it. Like it's what we love. It's what we do. It's what we do and what we love. So at this point, let's just talk it out. You know?
For sure. So how long then were you at Conway until the next step?
I was at Conway 6 months, and what's funny was I had told myself, again, in growth, I told myself, you know what? In 6 months, I want to be a manager. That's what it was, and I gave myself that's what the goal was. 6 months to the day, Vanessa offered the opportunity to manage another office in Claremont. And I was like, I got it. Oh, I'm killing it. And, I was so excited about getting that right then that she could have offered me office manager in Texas. I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. I was so excited for it. I didn't even take time to process what was being offered. I didn't ask for anything. I just said, yes, let's do it. I took the job, and I remember going home that day unsure. I was very unsure, and I told Nesh, this is being very, very vulnerable. I told Nesh there, and then I just out of nowhere just started crying. Even Nesh was confused. She was like, I'm not a huge crier. I'll tear up here and there, but I was like boo-hooing. And she was like, it's probably because you're gonna miss, the people at Conway. I'm like, yeah, that's probably what it is. I'm just gonna miss Conway. I'm like, I think I'm gonna miss working next to you. And so I think I wasn't trying to be real with myself. And so I was like, it's probably, I'm used to working next to you and the people, and that's what it is. It'll be fine. But like, it was, I think I did like almost 2 weeks or like a week. And then I wasn't beating that feeling. And I could have been honest to myself and just, the honest truth was it's a great office. The dentist there, she's a beast. She's amazing. But I felt that she would in essence do what she's doing now with the right person. And I didn't feel like I was the right person, but I didn't know how to express that. I felt like that I already took the job. This is what I wanted. You want growth. You can't complain about it. So you just got to shut up. And that wasn't even, I remember Vanessa saying like, you didn't even give us a chance. And cause I didn't, I was like, oh no, I can't. I said yes. I'll tell my wife, if I say no now, then I'm that's it. I'm done. I'm like, they're either gonna let me go and and I remember Vanessa saying, I don't think so. And I was like, you don't know. Hey, it's going to happen. And lo and behold, I remember I called Vanessa. There was one day I called to think about you about 3 times. I do believe by the 3rd time, you were like, okay, Frankie, you need to figure out what you want. Like, and it was, I was kidding around. And Matt was like, call me again. That's what I took it as. It wasn't nasty. It wasn't anything. It was just kind of like, I was calling you and Vanessa to like have you guys give me my solution and you put it back. And so like you figure out what you want and then you tell us at that point what is that you want. And I remember when I first hung up, I was like, man, I think I upset Matt. And Ness was like, what did he say? And then I told her, she was like, yeah, I think you upset Matt. And I was like, that doesn't make me feel good right now. I was expecting her to be like, nah, it's Matt, you'll be fine. But that's what I needed because I went back and I was like, I can't call them again saying I'm not sure. So up until I finally said, I can't do it. This is it's a no, it's, whatever the reason was. And I remember I had committed to doing it until you guys found the next person. And it was that whole experience, one of those things I would do it again because that whole experience, it taught me patience. It taught me so much because I was like, all right, I said, no, I'm going back to Conway tomorrow. Even though I know I committed to staying there until you guys found the next person. It was like week 1. I was like, okay, cool. Week 2, I'm like, man. And I had to learn, like, Frankie, you said you were going to stay there till you found the next person. So you got to stay there till you find the next person. And again, my mom's like she's like my guru and everything. And she was like, I hear you. And I understand. But what did you say? And I was like, well, Mom, I said I was going to stay there, but it's been like 2 weeks. And she was like, okay, did you give them a timeline? Did she say it was going to be 2 weeks and then you were done? I was like, no, Mom, but I mean, it's been 2 weeks. And so she was like, what did you say? Up until they find someone. And have they found someone? So I was like, no, Mom, I got it. Understood. But that whole experience, again, it taught me, one, you mean what you say, say what you mean.
Sure.
Because at that point I could have said, hey, Matt, I'm down to do this to help for 2 weeks. I'd be willing to. And if I would have said that, then I would have, been okay at that point if it's been like 6 months to then say, man, it's just frustrating. I didn't say that.
Sure. So
I gave you guys a open, I said I can be here till whenever. So I had to learn. That was one of the things where I had to learn, which is so helpful in the position I'm at now. Say what you mean and mean what you say. So if you say you want it in 2 weeks, you have to express it. Give the other person the opportunity to understand what you're wanting. They can't guess. And I was like, it took me about a month, and I got back to Conway. And it was different. I remember I came back. The whole experience was, I remember I asked Vanessa, I was like, hey, when I come back, can I be like an assistant manager? Because, I was a manager here.
Right.
She was like, let me look into it, and I'll get back to you. And I remember I was like, yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen. And again, it was a thing where I was like, man, now I'm going back again. It's happened to me again.
Yeah.
I'm starting right back. They see me leave, and I was like, guys, nice to see ya. I'll be back. Never.
Yeah.
And I'm right back now, right back where I started. And now these people see me as a failure. And I remember I would go to Vanessa and I said, I failed. And she was like, she got to a point where she was like, I don't want to hear about your Claremont experience again. We don't, she was like, we don't think about it. You think about it.
I had forgotten about it until you mentioned it. I was like,
yeah,
100%.
No, she literally, I remember I sat in her car right next to her. She took me out to lunch, and she was like, and after this, if I hear about it again, She was like, Frankie, help me out if I hear it again. And so I was like, I can't bring it up. But again, it was me. It was a me thing. It was me on me. And I was just creating this thing. You failed. And no one saw it that way. Like not anyone but me. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it was thanks to her guidance, because I was able to see that, take that instead of the failure to like another stepping stone. Like it was just, I'm actually grateful it happened. I was able to get so much from that experience to now for where I'm at right now, you know?
So you almost had like 2 ego battles back to back then.
Mm-hmm. It was, if you asked me before, I didn't have an ego.
Yeah.
And, oh man, like there was ego there. That was an ego thing. To that fight about if I failed, that was a fight with my ego. Mm-hmm. Like, because again, no one felt I failed. Not my wife, no one at the office, my parents, my leader. No one felt. It was just me. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I was fighting with my ego.
Yeah. But you did the right thing because you learned from it and pushed yourself harder. Mm-hmm. I think when you came back to Conway, I would assume you came back with a vengeance.
For sure.
And you were ready then for the next opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I came back, like they say, I came back swinging. I was ready to, I was ready to go. But I definitely feel like, again, all that happened even put me in a positive view to even the leaders in the office there. Like, they were like, hey, this kid's, he's hungry. Mm-hmm. Like he wants it. And I remember there was a moment. So there was another employee at Conway there in the front who I got along with everybody. It's really hard, for me not to get along. I'm
people person.
I'm a people person.
Yeah.
And this one coworker of mine is just, she was just mean sometimes. And I was like, man, I'm just, I can't, I don't get it. And I remember going to Vanessa. Actually, there was a meeting one day. It was Vanessa, Jackie, Nesh, I believe Maribel was, I can't remember. Maribel was my previous manager. And I was expressing my frustrations to them. Mm-hmm. And I was like, because they were having me switch between both offices next door, Suite A and Suite C. And they were having me switch. And I was saying, my frustrations with switching because it's one employee. And I remember telling, Vanessa and Jackie was like, I have an idea. I'm like, oh, finally, someone's gonna come with a solution. She was like, what if we have Frankie, sit right next to this person? And I'm looking at her like, I don't think you understood what I was saying. And she was like, oh wait, I lied. We weren't even switching yet. They were thinking of the idea of switching. And she was like, well, we'll have Frankie switch, Mondays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays, and he'll sit right next to her. And she was like, and Frankie, anything you see that you feel could improve, you let her know. And I'm like, excuse you? That's not what I wanted. Mm-hmm. She was like, you let her know you speak with Maribel, but feel free to let her know. If you feel there's an area, express it. And I was like, she's setting me up for failure for sure. This girl's she's gonna swing on me. We went in, and remember the first time I tried, I was like, hey, so I felt like, and the girl was like, yeah, and turned around. And I was like, yeah, it's for sure. Yeah, cool. And I turned around, I'm like, yeah, this didn't work. And I remember I started to like almost shut down. And then I reached out to Jackie. And she was like, why don't you try saying, are you okay? And I was like, okay, I'll try it. At this point, I'm kind of desperate. And I remember the person, again, there was more times where you say, good morning. There was no, she'd look at you and turn around and keep going. So then that happened that morning. The next day I was like, good morning, no response. So I sat down next to her. I was like, no, I'm not going to say anything just yet. I remember saying, hey, I don't think this is the way we're supposed to be doing it. I believe it's this, and this. No response. So I was like, okay, I'm going to sit next to her. So I went right next to her and I was like, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Why? The first response I got from her for ever. Mm-hmm. I was like, no, I just feel like you seem a little frustrated. I just want to make sure, did I do something, wrong to upset you? She was, no, I'm fine. It's just, I'm going through a lot right now. I'm fine. But right after that conversation, it was like laughter, having a good old time. If I was like, hey, I have an idea. What if we do this? Oh, that's great. Yeah, let's do it. And I was like, man, those 3 are you okay is what helped. But I still use that today at the office. Sometimes when I see it, hey, is everything okay? And it starts this whole, sometimes, when you're about to cry, you're emotional and someone says is everything okay? And then that's your key to lose it all, because that's your breaking point. Mm-hmm. That's what those words do, like, for sure. It evolves, like, it makes the person just express at that point.
Yeah.
It's those three simple words. But that is what, that I still carry that on to this day. Even aside from even at work, even in a family dynamic, when I have one of my wonderful brothers who are just acting beautiful, are you okay? And it right away, they're like, nah, bro, I'm cool. I'm just XYZ. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Hey, I see you're frustrated, man. Do you want me to give you some space? No, I'm fine. It's fine. And then, boom, the personality or the frustration shifts. It's gone, and now we're back to normal.
Interesting.
But I use that to this day. I love that thing.
So you kind of, at this point, were almost an assistant manager without the title, sounds like?
In my head,
Yeah.
I was.
Okay.
So in my head, I took it out, and I remember telling Nash, if I want to be a manager, I'm gonna act like a manager. I remember I used to wear scrubs a lot, and it didn't matter. But I was like, if I want to be a manager, I need to dress like a manager. I would get there early every day. I remember I used to get there like super early. I'd vacuum every morning, switch stuff. I'd make it ready for the patients to see. I shifted my entire everything, the way I did stuff. I had no Jackie as well. I remember she told me, she was like, don't be afraid to step on toes, because I was always like, I don't want to upset anybody. And she literally looked at me that one day we were together. She was like, don't be afraid to step on toes. Step on the toes. And I was like, okay. But I took that, and so that's what I did. When we were in meetings, if I felt something that we could add something, or if I opened up, so actually what I think is, what if we try this, and this? And I would see sometimes that one specific employee look at me like she was ready to jump across the room. But I was, like, in my head, I'm like, they said, my leader told me, step on the toes. So I'm going to step on these toes.
Right.
And yeah, I took that role of an assistant manager. Mind you, this office had 2 managers already. But in my head, I was like, I don't care. I'm going to be the unofficial assistant manager. And once I took that, I felt a lot of my coworkers feel that as well. They were coming to me for certain things. There was some stuff I was like, this is going to be a Maribel question, or this would be the other person question. But I felt the shift. I remember going to Nash, like, I feel like they trust me now. And she was like, they probably do. And it was that shift that had the team. I felt like the assistant manager in my head, but I also felt the team feel the same way.
Right.
I was, like you said, the unofficial assistant manager. And it was nice. And I think from one of the first times in my career, I was fulfilled. It was nice to go to work and feel that I was making a difference, and that the team felt that I was making a difference.
Right.
It felt nice.
So, long story short, you were making an impact purely by leading by example.
I guess
because you didn't have the title.
No,
you just were.
And
you were there first. You were doing the jobs that nobody wanted to do.
I didn't care for it. It was, I think, one of the first times where I didn't care for it. Like, I loved what I was doing. I loved the team, the patients, everything. I just, there was times where I was in the bathroom, cleaning it, like, unfortunately, but I didn't want patients to come in.
Sure.
And see that bathroom. My head was just going, like, the patients see that bathroom, that's probably, they see how we take care of that. They're going to think that's how we take care of their teeth. Yep. Like, everything led to something else. So I was like, we have to, it was getting there early, vacuuming, cleaning the bathrooms. I remember there was a hygienist there. She's amazing. I'd get there early, and she sees patients early. There was no one else there. And she'd see sometimes some men, and she'd come to the office, like, hey, Frankie, this man's, I'm a little uncomfortable. And it would be just to sit there. I'd go to the office on the other side and do the same thing, just show my presence every so often. Be like, hey, Leanne, how are you? And then I'd go to clean the bathroom, check the front. But that alone, I think, she felt like, this kid cares. Yeah. And it definitely, that led to, when there was questions, honestly, like, about insurance, and Maribel wasn't available, and I was on that side, she felt comfortable coming to me. Or if, anyone on my side, the same thing. They were, a lot of times I felt like on my side, they saw my face, they were like, he knows, let's go.
So was that the first time that you would say, like, you truly felt like you were the owner of this business and treated it as if you owned it?
1,000%.
Yeah.
Like I said, even previous jobs, no, that office became, like I said, like, my baby.
Yeah.
And I was very adamant. I was very particular about how the front needed to be.
Yeah.
You know, in that office, it was very weird. The desk was about maybe 2 feet tall. And so the patients,
Yeah.
where they were standing, they could see everything behind you. So the trash can or whatever. So I was very picky on making sure the trash can was always low, you know, decluttering, and the way the cabinets, when you would open up a cabinet, patients can see the entire cabinet at that how it was before. So I went in there and I just organized the cabinet. And I remember my old, one of the coworkers there, they were like, you know, it's going to get dirty again. And so I was like, I'll clean it again. That's just how, you know, how it goes. But I didn't want me to go get a pen or extra, you know, paper. And then I open that up and the patient's behind me and they see that whole cluttered cabinet. The way I am is I'd be like, you know, I would sit there and be like,
Yeah.
that's how they keep their paper? How are they keeping my records? That's how my brain would automatically work. So I didn't want that for the patients either.
Right. Yeah, I've often thought about, because our group has multiple offices, but each one is its own entity.
Yeah.
Where whoever the leaders are essentially run that practice as if it's a standalone business. So let's talk a little bit about your day to day, because if, like you're saying, it is your business and you are the buzzword is intrapreneur instead of entrepreneur. Like you're an entrepreneur within a business, intrapreneur. So what does your day to day look like now as the office manager, now that you finally have the official title to go along with the actions?
The day to day, it's, you know, I'm there early. Actually, I have a hygienist who beats me every day. It's almost like a competition between her and I. It's pretty funny. But I'm there early every day to prep for the day. So there's some days I do morning huddle. I have one of my other patient coordinators. She does morning huddle another day. But within the days that I do it, I go in there and I prep for morning huddle. I take another look at the schedule just to make sure it's, you know, there's nothing that we miss, whether it's, you know, any insurance verifications, any, you know, appointment blocks that are next to each other that the doctor's not going to be a fan of. I check that, and then we do the morning huddle. Morning huddle is, for me, it's one of the most important things of our day. It's where we all, you know, get together and go over we go over numbers, all that good stuff, but it's also where the floor is open for anything on the schedule they see or anything they saw yesterday on the schedule, any switches that they weren't a fan of. So then we can all communicate and say, oh, like, yeah, got that makes sense. Or I did this for this reason. We do morning huddle, and then after that, the day just kind of goes, to be honest. A lot of it for me, you know, right now in my current season at the office, I'm front and center right there. So I'm main check-in and, you know, check out as well with one of the other patient coordinators. And it's very, very, right now, it's very patient care focused. And a lot of the admin duties gets done at a later time. Because right now that's what the office needs. That's the season we're in right now. Where, you know, we are shorthanded. We're shorthanded the front. We're looking for the next, you know, patient coordinator. But in the meantime, that means someone has to pick that up. And our other treatment coordinator, Miss Shelley, who's amazing, she has a lot. She's, you know, she transitioned from being a dental assistant, and she's been doing the front desk now for like 2 months, and she's picked up very fast. And, you know, ideally, and we've talked about it, she's like, yeah, I can take a little bit more, but I don't want to give her too much to where now the front desk is not what she wants. You know, I gotta measure it out where it's still where she's like, I'm liking what I'm doing. And I always do a check-in with her, and she's like, you know, I'm liking it. So I pretty much, whatever is left over, I tackle it on to me. And the way we work is something that, you know, I think it's something you said, but it's something that Vanessa has our office doing. We highlight what's most important. You know, if the office is pure chaos that day, what are the 3 things that we at least accomplished? And right now in this current season, that's what I do. You know, I need to make sure confirmation calls for the next day are done. That, you know, we have to make sure patients are going to show up. The other thing is to make sure, you know, EOBs and stuff are sent to billing, making sure, you know, we're getting cash flow in for the practice. And then the other thing is I have something on there, for me it's important, but it's payroll, making sure I like to I'm very anal with certain things. That's one of them. So on payroll day, I'm not there stuck for 17 hours trying to figure out who clocked in at what time. So if those things are done, I can focus on patient care. And, you know, Fridays are my days for catch up. So whatever other admin duties I haven't done, then on Friday, we'll go in and catch up and, do what I have to do. And then delegating gives us a lot of freedom in the front. If a hygienist and they're amazing, our hygienist, if they have an open block, I give them the recare list and say, go to town, and they do it. And so that knocks off one of my check boxes of call 20, 30, whatever patients, because she knocked it out for me that day. Mm-hmm. And that's how it's been going. Pretty much the recare list has been done by hygiene right now. And they have, it's really nice to see, because sometimes I'll go back there to go ask, like, hey, can you, and I see, and she's already has the thing open calling patients. So I literally just turn around and she'll be like, did you need something? I said, nope, you got it. And I walk away. And it is nice to see that as well. Like she took the initiative to take care of it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the stuff is delegated, and the team, they work.
Well, you're in an office that's going, I like how you keep saying season, because it's going through a difficult patch right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to see if you could give a little background on maybe some of the struggles that have been going on and how you've been handling them.
Crying? No, I'm kidding. I think the current season we're in right now. So in our area, just to give a little background, it's one of the most, according to our amazing marketing team, competitive areas in dentistry right now in the Central Florida area. It's very competitive. There's about 20 different offices within like a 3-mile radius. And for the first time ever, we're feeling it, because before, as maybe offices were being, were coming up, or maybe that many, the biggest thing is our hygiene schedule was packed. Like most offices, your hygienists are booked out 3-4 months. They miss an appointment, they can't come in till we're 3 months later, that's all we have. That's not our case right now. Someone misses an appointment, I'm very well, can you come in at 2:00 instead? Yeah, great. And I can fit you in right now. And that's new. In my 3 years of doing this, I've never experienced what we're going through now. It's we call recare list where, we're doing all this stuff. We have an amazing patient communication system where we can reach out to them saying, hey, we have openings. We do it all. And it's like crickets. And we're like hygiene schedules surviving really off new patients just booking online, or, randomly calling. It's so funny that we get so excited in the front. I'll put myself on mute and be like, new patient, because we're eager, and then, the way we verbiage is I actually had an opening for tomorrow, and, I just had something open up, and I look, I have 4 hours. But obviously I'm not telling the patient hey, we're thirsty for you. So, and it's nice because they're like, oh my God, it's amazing. Sometimes I've called, and they can't see me, and the whole area is suffering because I called and they can't see me till tomorrow. I'm like, I can see you today. But what I express to the team is, if we're doing our best, we're calling our recare list. Yeah. We're doing, communicating with the patients. We just got to stick it through. Yeah. We have a joke in the office. One of our doctors, before he leaves, he always says, God willing. He'll be like, I'll see you tomorrow. He's like, God willing. We hate it. But along the lines is when I was saying this with everything, I was like, guys, this too shall pass. Right. And I firmly believe it. This, as long as we stay diligent with, calling, doing what we know works, because it does work. Right. It's just a season. And one thing we've shifted on, and it's something that I always express to the team, this is just something for now. We have to learn the game a little differently, you know. And like Miss Shelley, she's done this for 20-something plus years. She's never seen this, so I just said to her, this is just a challenge. Now we have to figure out what else we can do. Yeah. So the new patient appointments. It's not a new patient. Think of it as a new patient experience. What is it from when they call or when they make the appointment online? What are we doing to stand out from all the offices right next to us? Because there's one literally walking distance. So what are we doing that's different from them? Are we calling them right away, introducing ourselves? When they call, how friendly, I know the whole first name, last name, whatever. Let's get a little bit more. If you can get them to giggle once, that's a thumbs up. You're giving them, oh, this guy seems kind of cool. Right. Marketing shift. We took different pictures of the doctors. Now the doctors, on the new mailer, it shows more of them, these younger, cool guys who, seem to be your everyday, someone you'd go out with, but also you trust with, doing the work in your mouth. Right. It's a change. And I know it's been happening now for maybe it's been a few months. maybe 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. We've been there for a little bit, but
Yeah.
little by little, we're seeing small things. If you look at the schedule down some, you'll see one hygienist, Sandra's been there for 20 years. You'll see her schedule is back to being pretty solid. That's a sign.
Good.
And that's what I was telling the team. Hey, this is a sign. Again, don't quit. I know sometimes we don't see instant gratification. Like I called Frankie, the recall list, and I got 3. Sometimes we call the recall list for a week straight, and every patient says, I'm not interested.
Right.
We call, 2 months out saying, hey, with your insurance, you can come in today. Yeah, I don't care. I'll keep it in 2 months. But we see hers. Or we have a full day. We had this past Wednesday, the schedule was like a full hygiene schedule. And it was like the highlight of huddle. We were like, guys, we haven't been here in forever. But I expressed to them that we're doing something right. We had, everything fell apart, but we're picking it up.
Yeah.
It's if that's what's happening, we're doing something right. So let's keep the course. Let's do it. And I do. I can be honest and say now, there was times where being the leader, I got to stay positive.
Sure.
But I go to my leader and say, I don't see an out. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. And I don't see, to the team, I'm like, guys, we got it. It's solid. Don't worry about it. No, don't stress.
Who on the team was getting the most discouraged? The team or the doctors?
The team.
Okay.
The team, especially because, it was a mixture of things. This office has gone through a lot. Staff change just due to toxicity in the office. And right now we had one hygienist been there for 20 years, and then the other 2 hygienists just started as hygienists.
Yeah.
So, and I understood. They just, one hygienist, she just started.
Yep.
Super excited. Just got out of high school. I'm going to see all the patients and clean all the teeth.
Yep.
And she had 2 patients that day. And so I remember going to her and saying, hey, I saw your schedule. How are you feeling? The right answer, she was like, no, I'm fine. It's okay. Yeah. And I was like, are you sure? Because you just got out of school.
Yeah.
I would want to clean all the teeth I can. And she was like, yeah, it kind of sucked. I'm like, yeah. And I want you to know, I know that.
Yeah.
And we're doing our very best. We're trying. And I even showed her, like I went with her, sat down and said, I'm going to show you what we do. Showed her the communication, how we communicate with patients on Next Health, how we do certain things, how often we're calling a recall. And she was like, wow. Because, I wanted her to feel like, I don't want her to say we're doing the best we can. And we're up front just, feet back. And
right.
She sees us moving, but she doesn't know the ins and outs. So when she saw, she was like, wow. And then, she was on the one on Wednesday who had a full column.
Awesome.
And I asked her, I was like, how was it today? She was like, it was a good day. But she's the one, she was like, I'm seeing a difference. She was like, I'm seeing more patients. And I was like, I know, me too. It was really, really exciting. But
right.
Being that she was the team is the one that felt it the most, I think they're the ones celebrating it the most now. Seeing us kind of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit.
Yeah.
They're super excited, which in turn, it makes me, when I see how excited they are, that's fuel for me.
Sure.
Like now, instead of 30 patients on the recall, I'm calling 55. I'm staying a little bit later just to call, or the Fridays. Miss Shelley's there today, and I was like, once you finish your 2x2s, if we can do as many recalls. And she was like, yeah, for sure. Like, because we see how excited they are, and it's a good feeling to see them excited.
That's amazing. So the office there's been so many things that inside and outside of your control that have happened. Like we've had 2 hygienists that just transferred. We had one that moved to a different city. We had a doctor who we knew was short-term coming in, and he eventually had his own practice, which was planned. Then we had a doctor that didn't work out, but then we had a brand new doctor also. How was it? Because there's 2 doctors there. One is established. He's a partner dentist with us.
Right.
How different is it working with a brand new doctor compared to an established?
Very different.
Yeah.
And, I told him I was coming on this podcast, and that I was probably going to speak on, some of the learning stuff. And he was like, for sure. So with that, I remember approaching when he first came, I was excited. And I felt like I was a lot at first because I was like, hey, this. And he was like fresh out of school in essence. And I forgot he had no office experience. He knew dentistry from school. He just learned that. But they, in dental school, they don't teach you, this is what your office manager does, because this is what your team does. This is what, you have to trust. That's not a thing. They just come in here fresh and boom. And I was treating him kind of like I would treat my other doctor, the partner doctor. And it wasn't working. And I remember I would be frustrated. I remember even meetings, I'd ask you, there was one meeting, I mentioned that frustration, and you said, you're just going to have to tell him straight up. If it hurts, it kind of hurts. And because I felt like, maybe this guy's sensitive. I don't want to, he's fresh out of school. And I literally had to remind myself and even the team at times, the office, I don't like saying politics, but like the office way, or the way that an office goes, he has no experience in that. So we're his first office. So I'm his first office manager, to the DAs, you're his first lead DA, you're his first DA, you're creating that path. So we were going in there kind of like, all right, come on, let's go, moving on. And then he's back there and we're like, what are you doing? Come on, we're over here, where we forgot we had to go sit next to him, grab his hand and say, no, we're going to step here. This is what we're going to do next. Sitting with a patient, they would always say he has the most beautiful hands. Even our partner does, said, this guy's hands, he's going to pass me for sure. But that was never the issue. It was the confidence and getting him to trust the team and getting the team to trust him. Because, with this team specifically, they've seen a few dentists, unfortunately, just the way it went.
Yep.
They went through a few dentists. So by the time he came, they were almost like, that's another one at this point. And I had to sit down, with the leaders in the office and say, I know what we went through and what you guys went through. Some of the stuff was even BF before Frankie. So I get it. And I want you to know that I hear you and I understand, but let's take this approach differently. With your other previous dentists, you guys just said, this is what you take care of. Let's try differently. Let's walk with them. And I remember the hygienist, she was like, I don't know why I have to walk with him. He should know. And I'm like, you know what? In the op, he's got it. But he doesn't have it. He shouldn't know. And then she was a dentist in her country. And I said, in your country, is this something they teach in dental school? And she's like, well, no, it's different over there. And I was like, but the reality is they don't teach that here. It's just, all of this is new. It's your first day at work, first week at work. We got to have grace. And the other hygienist who's been there for she was still there. She saw, I was like, you know what? She'd come. She'd say, Frankie, I feel like this, and this. What should I do? There was one time there was an x-ray. She wasn't getting it. And, he wanted that specific x-ray. And he was like, I need you to try that. I need that x-ray. And she was frustrated. And then she eventually told him, like, I can't get it. And, there was like a little, they had a little something. Because he was like, he wanted the x-ray and she didn't get it. So he was just kind of like, I'll go in there without the x-ray. And she told me, she said, Frankie, I'm frustrated. And I asked her, I said, did you ask him if he can take the x-ray? No. And I was like, just next time you're in that situation, ask him for help. I'm like, you couldn't get it, but he might. And, he's really open to it. And lo and behold, it happened again. And she went. And he went to take the x-ray and he couldn't get it. And then he told her, he was like, this is a hard one. She was like, yeah, like this is, and now they bonded off because she's like, that tooth. And he was like, yeah, I see. And this, and we ended up ordering something different. I reached out to the best dental assistant, Nash. She helped us out. She got something, for us to order, but it helped kind of mesh a little bit because now they have one thing in common. We both couldn't x-ray that tooth.
Yeah.
And that's what they still talk about. But it was just small things like that. With me specifically, it was communication. I was afraid to be straight up. Like with Dr. Tarver, I just can.
Sure.
Honestly, we'll sit down and it's like, God, what was that? He's like, yeah. And we'll just have it. Sometimes he'll tell me, some of the things he'll tell me sometimes, we're having conversations and he'll be like, fix your face. And it's, anyone else here, they're like, no, but it's just the way we communicate, it's hilarious. And I felt like I couldn't talk to this guy this way right away. But in part, that's what I think he wanted too. He's seen it here.
Sure.
And so I was trying to, tread so lightly and like, but maybe if and ultimately I remember sitting there in the room, sitting down with him and saying, can I just give you feedback? Like, and you tell me if it's okay. If not, it's okay. But am I able to give you feedback? Like, no chaser, just be straight up honest how I just want to say it. And he was like, I'd love that. And I ripped off the Band-Aid. Like, I feel like I went to town. And I'm thinking after this guy's for sure calling Dr. Kelly or calling, saying this guy's, But afterwards, he was like, okay, what do you recommend? And I was like, I remember I was like, oh man, this worked. We started talking, and then that just became, I was like, I'm going to do this often. I'm going to go every day or every other day. And we just started doing that. It got to the point now where there's a trust with us where I can go to him and say, doctor, that was rough. And he'll just laugh and be like, yeah, but I struggle with this. And we have a whole conversation about it and move on. There's no difficulties. And I realized that the team was also seeing my difficulties with him. As much as I felt they didn't, they saw. And I think that I was also contributing to their difficulties because they were seeing like, he's the office leader. He's not able to get across, how am I supposed to do it? So I had to have that conversation with him, and I had to create that bond, not only for me, but for the team too.
Sure.
As that kind of like worked and meshed, I started seeing the other leaders with him just kind of start meshing and start kind of creating a relationship, because it's Dr. Tarver and I talk about all the time. It's kind of like, I think he calls it imposter syndrome. But how I just lead with them, I forget that, that title, the office manager title. Sure. Like I forget, they see you as you're a leader. It's, if you can't, then I can't. That was an example of like, I had to can so they can, in essence. And it's a real thing. I don't know if you ever sit back and say like, I'm Matt.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. To see how people view you, because you just know you. Like, all your faults better than anyone. You hate yourself. You've got the ego. Sure. Like, all the failures 100%. That these people might not see, and because you have a title, it's different for them. So yeah, I try not to think about it. I try to, but it is in the back of your mind, like, yeah, like what I say actually matters now. Yeah. Like, people listen to it.
They do.
So how long has that doctor been there now then?
He made his year August 7th.
Yeah.
And
tremendous growth.
Oh man.
And it's such an amazing story too, because you've touched on it a little bit, but he's grown, and I think you all have onboarded him so well in a difficult time for the office. It's not like he came into this rosy, amazing picture where there's, turning new patients away because you can't, you're booked out 6 months. I think it's a testament to you and the culture you've built there.
Thank you.
So any other like culture advice you can think of that you've done?
I think one thing for me, and I can touch on it, as far as when I first came. I remember when I first came, I got promoted to that office. My regional manager was like, hey, Frankie, there's something there and I can't quite figure it out. Because she couldn't, she has X amount of offices. She can't be there every day. And then, I remember going into it being excited because I had to work with several people, and I was like, oh my God, me and this person are going to be just best buddies. It's going to be phenomenal. We're going to like call each other on the way home. I created this whole, it was super exciting. I remember another person I thought was going to be just ruthless to me, because I was in essence coming in and she was leaving. I was taking her position. So I remember told Nash, I feel like I'm going to tread lightly. I feel like she might be like mean. She wasn't. She was the biggest sweetheart on earth. And the person I was so excited to work for was the person, in hindsight, that was creating toxicity. And it was tough because at first I was like, no, that's no way. I'm going to keep, digging, and I'm going to keep. And I remember Vanessa telling me, Frankie, when you dig, there's like no way out. You just end up going and going. And I was like, no, like I'll be fine. I was so far. There was days I was leaving at 8:00 because I was just going, and it was seeing. And I remember calling her. It was like, she told me give it a week, and I gave it day 1, gave it day 2, and I was like, by day 3, like I don't need a week. This is it. Called her and I said, this is it. She was like, I kind of knew it. And I was like, what do you mean you knew it? You told me. She was like, I needed confirmation that it's it. We found that out, and then everything just started to spiral. In a matter of, I think my first don't know if it was a month or 2 months, we let go of 3 people. And I was scared to do it because I'm like, I just came in month 2, and I'm letting go of, it was 1 in every department almost. She was gone, he's gone, she's gone, and I was like, man, this team, they're gonna see me as this guy who tread lightly because you might get let go.
Yeah. And
at first it kind of was that way. At first it was I felt like the big bad guy, who he came in and let everyone go. And we're calling Vanessa was like, at first she was like, they may need a little bit of structure. So let's, tread. Obviously, you're not going in there tomorrow and just letting 16 people go.
Sure.
But she was like, structure's new for them. Have conversations. And I went. And as, I went and started with the leaders as to why it was done. And I would say for everyone, they kind of knew. And but for one specific one, it was the lead assistant at the time. And the person we were letting go was her bestie. They were, they were just like Oreos, just together, Oreo milk, just always. And I remember I had called Vanessa for something this person did again. And she was like, hey, Frankie, it's time. And I was like, whoa, no, we can't. She was like, no, there's other things. It's time. And I always trust a relationship I have with Vanessa is she showed me the trust we have is I trust her. I do. If she tells me it's time, it's time. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna trust you. And then in my head, I was scared because I had just created this relationship with this lead assistant. I had just started this office, and we were bonding. And I'm like, and I'm about to take her best friend away, and I can't tell her.
Yeah.
No, you can't give her a warning like, hey, your best is leaving. And as we talk, one of the things she tells me that she's like, Frankie, I appreciate you because you're just so honest and straightforward. And it was eating me up because I'm like, I know what we're about to do this Thursday.
Yeah.
And you're telling me I'm honest and I'm straightforward and I'm not being honest.
Yeah.
And I remember I had a meeting. I told Vanessa, I was like, can I just say, can I just let her know on Wednesday or Thursday morning that, we are moving forward with letting someone go? She was like, I don't recommend it. But if you feel that it's going to do good, then do it. I think it's going to do good. In hindsight, it did not do good. Because that's all the lead assistant can think about. That's all she could think about all day. And I was like, and I thought by assuring her, it's not you. You're good. Right. It's solid. It's all she could think about. She didn't want to be in the back because she knew somebody was going to get let go. When it happened, I remember going to her. She was still in the office, and she was crying and crying. And I'm like, and she was just kind of she didn't pay attention. I'm like, man, she hates me. Yep, that's it. I ruined it. At the end of everything, the regional was there. Excuse me. It was me, the regional, and her. And I was like, I want to apologize. And she cut me off. And she was like, why are you apologizing? She was like, no. She's like, we're solid. This has nothing to do with what happened there. She was out. She was like, I've learned to know you're straightforward and you're honest. If you felt this is what we needed to do, I trust you. I was shocked. But with that, I say, there's never been a time where we've let someone go because they're impacting the culture negatively that we've regretted it. There's never been one time. And each time where I'm like, this one might be rough. This one, the team might be upset. When I communicate as to why, a lot of times, like I said, they're like, we kind of saw, or we started seeing that.
Yep.
They know. And then, down the line, 2 weeks later, honestly, sometimes the day right after, it's like that Monday, it's it's peace. It's always benefit. So my recommendation or my advice to anyone in my position, protect your culture, know the culture you want, know the culture that fits your office. Our office it's a lively culture. It's fun. We work hard, but we have fun. The partner dentist is probably the most fun guy ever. So we have to have fun. That's just the way it works there.
Right.
So protect that culture. If you see something affecting it, monitor it. I'm not saying, you see someone one time, you get him out of there. Sure. Monitor it, have the conversations, let the person know, hey, this is not working. But if it continues, I take responsibility for the culture of my team. If it continues and I allow it, to me, then I'm failing. I'm failing them. cut it short. It sucks. You know, that feeling of letting someone go. I get it. You know, sometimes you let people go and you think about the personal stuff. They have a kid and they have this stuff. But my mom, again, when I let one go, that she was a mom, and it ate me up a little bit. She was like, you know, can I be honest with you? I was like, yeah. When I was working, I was a mom of 5. I took care of my job because I was a mom of 5. So she was like, if it wasn't working and you did everything in your power, this isn't on you. It's on her. And I was like, you're right. And it's true. Remove toxicity. Don't think about the personal touches to it. You know, I know we're human and it's kind of easy to, but in that moment, put your office manager hat on and think about what's best for the entire team.
Right.
And it sucks.
Yeah.
You know, the action of doing that.
Yeah, that has been how I've been able to have difficult conversations with people and make difficult decisions, is because often you're the one who can make the decision. And it's on you, but you have to do it for them. Even though it's the worst thing in the world for you to go through it. But knowing that it's for somebody else, it helps me significantly.
100%.
And you never know too. There's so many situational things. But look, think if you had never been let go from your first job. I mean, it can. Unhappy employees, that by them showing you their unhappiness, sometimes they're asking to be let go, and you just have 100%. To do it, and it's better for everybody.
And I look at it sometimes like in a positive way, like keeping them here, you're holding them back for where they're supposed to be. Like you said, you know, if I'm keeping you here and I'm holding you, I know you're not a right fit.
Yeah.
I'm holding you back to where you are the right fit. And so I'm keeping you longer selfishly for whatever reason, but it's not benefiting you. So yeah, I know you're no longer working here, and that moment stings.
Sure.
But I've seen from previous, you know, at Conway, I still follow some people that, you know, ultimately didn't let go. But you see they're in the right spot now. You see their posts or whatever. I'm like, that's where you fit in.
And that helps me too, is to just like going back to the competition you were talking about. Somebody in dentistry can find a job that same day in dentistry. For sure. Especially in this hiring market.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's no reason to think if you have to let someone go that they won't be able to feed their family.
And more often times than not, there's still, you know, I think I love the way we do it. It's still done, I think, well. And there's employees that if they did reach out to me for a recommendation letter, I would. It just, you didn't work out here, but it doesn't mean I can't recommend. I know clinically you're strong, or you have something that I can recommend 100%. Yeah. And I do. And I've done one.
Yeah. And
I would do it again. Like,
sure.
Obviously it's got to be different. Like, you know, for me not to recommend, it's got to be rough. But
so on a more positive note, you recently had somebody working at the front with you who was super strong. She got an opportunity to go to another office. So how did that make you feel, having your first person under you get promoted?
Initially, like I thought about all the ways this is gonna suck.
Yeah.
Right? Because you think, you know, to say I was so happy for her. From when she interviewed and when she started, she was the first person I interviewed and never did like a working interview. We just interviewed her and kind of hired her on the spot. And when I first interviewed, I was a little uneasy. I was like, man, I've never not hired, with seeing how they work. She came in Monday, Amber telling Nesh, this girl's good. And she was so trusting of me. It was the first time where I had someone that like you said, whatever I said, I could have said, you know, the best way to do this is to go outside and yell at people. She'd be like, solid, let's start yelling at people. And I took that as like, I had to protect that. Like I had to teach her everything the right way because she trusted me. And she was so great at learning. And I would tell her like, hey, no, this is, you know, I would do this differently. I do this. And she was one to ask why too. She was like, I don't get it, why? And I'll say, you know, X, Y, Z. Got it. Turn around. And it's from that point on, it was done that way. It was never, you know, not that I don't mind repeating myself, but she knew.
Sure.
And as everything started playing out, where, you know, I saw the opportunity kind of arising in an area that was close to her. In my head, I'm like, hopefully they don't think about her. Nah, they're not thinking, she's going to be here forever. So don't worry about it, Frankie. Don't stress. I had Jackie, the regional of that area, she called and say, hey. I was like, we have her in mind, and then, Vanessa, my regional, knowing that I was panicking, she called me. She was like, you have the conversation with her. See if it's something she's interested in. Because she was like, you're panicking. What if she doesn't want it?
Yeah.
And I was like, you're right. I just got to go tell her, like, hey, don't take this. No, I'm kidding. I was like, I'm going to talk to her. And I pulled her aside and I was like, hey, there's an office in the Lake Mary area and they're needing an office manager. And they're thinking of you. Is that something you would consider? Yes. I was like, yeah, for sure. You should take it. And she was like, Frank, are you sad? I was like, absolutely. But then I told her, like, from when I hired you now, this is something I knew. And she was just doing this for 8 months.
Yeah.
With Operation Dental. She did dentistry in the past. And she remember asking me, like, should I take it? Am I ready? I was like, you are more than ready. It's why I was fearful of it, because I know you were ready. Mm-hmm. You were one where even if I was in their position, you'd be my first go-to. You're ready. You can do it. It was closer to her. It comes with, a little bit more money. I've seen what she did here. She calls me all the time and she still gives me a lot of credit, but I got to give her credit and say, my office is special. They're great people, but they're once they trust one person, that's their go-to. And so I became that for them for a while. And her being her, I was like, your goal is to have them see both of us and choose you. And you can do it. And she did. Like, they'd come to the front and they'd be like, hey, Fanny, I have a question on this insurance. That was for me a proud moment. I'm like, yes. Not even because they're asking me and I can focus on things. It's just, you see that she's got, and there was one hygienist who, she's one of the ones that transferred, but she was one where she wanted, don't waste your time. Do they cover fluoride? Yes or no? Don't give me typically, yes or no? And she was the hardest one. When I saw her go to her, I said, okay, yeah, she can do it. She's got it. And she did. She was one that she dedicated to it. She went after it. And I mean, I am so proud of her. Like, she's, in essence, she's my first.
Yeah.
I am extremely proud.
Yeah. You'll have more.
It hurts. I'm kidding. It does. There's another office who's produced a few of them.
Yes.
And I did one and I was like, I don't know how you do this, because you're proud of them. You're happy for them. You're whatever. But, when you think about it, you're that person who's doing so much, they're gone. And now come Monday, that's you. So, but it feels good. When you're doing it Monday, you're doing the confirmation calls and doing all the stuff. It feels good to know that they're now in your position. It's nice to have her now as a peer. She's, she's someone her and I can call it, which we do. We talk and say, hey, this is what's going on. What do you think? And we go back and forth, And I do ask her, I'm like, hey, this is what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And see what she thinks. She's now in it. She can, what's up? What do you have for me?
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier you have 2 small little girls. And I'm sure they hear all of your conversations about dentistry. Have they started picking up like dental talk and like even people's names?
Oh, for sure.
How old are they?
One is 5. She just turned 5, and the other one's 9. It's funny. So we let someone go yesterday. It wasn't working out. And I get home and I was talking to Nesh about it. And she was like, oh, was it so-and-so? And I looked at her, I'm like cracking up. She knows the ins and outs of the practice.
The 9-year-old said that?
Yeah. So she like knew. She was like, was it so-and-so? And it's funny, I was telling Nesh, as I'm talking to you about what I'm feeling, she was like kind of like, yeah, I saw that coming.
Yeah.
And so the oldest one, there's times where she's in the conversation. She's like, yeah, that sucks, Dad. Yeah, I feel, oh man, that's amazing, guys. Good job. Like she's in the conversation. She's in the conversation.
Yeah.
Honestly, if she keeps going, she's like me, I'll probably hire her as a front desk. She seems she's gonna be great. The younger one, not so much. She's a little more aggressive. But
did you being a dad, has that made you a better manager as well, or vice versa?
I would say vice versa.
Interesting.
It's made me a better dad. In this role, and Vanessa and I talk about this all the time, I've been in manager positions before, and I have never grown. I was just a manager. That's it. I got the title, whatever. I've never grown as a person, as a leader, as just. It's crazy because a lot of the stuff that I learned business wise or for the office, it's incorporated at home. You know, communication. It's beautiful because even our girls, they see it, and so I would say, you know, that it's affected me in a positive way. But being a dad, I'm a far better, I think, dad than I was 3 years ago, for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah.
Love working with you. Love hearing your
Likewise.
story. Well, let's do this again.
For sure. I'm down.
Thank you.